So this week I'm reviewing part 1 of the Neigh Anything Arc. Maybe I should make this a collab. Wonder if Moomba is available. To the circ!
Hey, this isn't Silver Quill's channel.
Nope. It's my channel.
Did that text just respond?
Yeah, it's my brother Text Typer. Text, this is... I never caught your name. You failed to mention it when you teleported in on top of me.
The Autistic Pony, but you can call me AJ.
Nice to meet you. I'm Comic. Well, since you're here, you want to review part 1 of the Neigh Anything Arc?
Sure, why not? As long as I can do part 2 as well. This is one of my favorite comic arcs, actually.
Well, in that case, cue spoiler alert that AJ wrote.
I have to write what now? Warning, this video contains many, if you cared you would have been gone by now, many spoilers. Ah yes, the Shining Cadence plotline. One of my favorites, if not most confusing, since I thought that it was established that ponies only had to do elementary school, but if I let popular canon get in the way of everything, I would get nowhere.
Maybe Pony High School is optional, or only exists in Canterlot.
Maybe. Well, let's just save that for someone else's analyst video, and let's look at the comic itself.
So this is yet another comic with the okay writing of Katie Cook and the amazingly fantastic and all-around great and highly detailed art by Andy Price.
Well, I do have to admit that I like the tiny things in the background of these comics, which then raises our hopes, only to dash them many series episodes later.
So let us flash back an unknown amount of years before the beginning of the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic show, when Shining Armor and Cadence are still in high school. Based on hints such as 80s Cherylee in part 2, it is most likely mid-80s, early 90s. Cadence is a popular girl, and Shining Armor is a nerd? Not saying that being a nerd is a bad thing, but seriously, a nerd?
Story of my life, although I do have to agree that, at first, I didn't get it. Sure, he doesn't save the day of the show, but he's far from nerdy. So when I first started reading it, I was a bit worried that it wouldn't work out or just be cliched. And to be fair, the story is kinda cliched. Hear me out. I'll go into a little more detail in our wrap-up, but for now, yes, I do think overall the story is cliche, but I still like it. I mean, even for all that, it's still well told, as we see in the first few pages.
So with a title that is a pun on the 1989 rom-com Say Anything, it'll most likely poke fun at the cliches of the genre. I'll keep a cliche counter on hoof, just in case. The flashback begins with Shining Armor and his nerdy friends getting tripped, leading him to being helped by Cadence.
Then they fall in love at first sight.
So Shining's group of nerdy friends go home and play Dungeons and Dragons?
Wouldn't that be EverQuest or Pathfinder or whatever that game is?
Actually I think it's Oubliettes and Orgs.
And I will remind you, mispronouncing things is my thing.
For copyright reasons? By the way, would that count as a cliche?
Just put it there anyways. So, after his friends see how lovesick he is with the Princess of Love, and after some she's too popular for you, no she isn't jig, they all come together as they decide to do whatever it takes to get him with Cadence.
They decide to do so by making it a quest. He must complete 3 tasks to win the girl. 1. Talk to her. 2. Do some extreme romantic gesture. 3. Win the crown.
First, he must meet Cadence outside school. In order to do that, he must convince his mom to hire Cadence as a fall sitter. Hooray for sticking with established canon!
I never really understood why a princess needed to foal sit. Is Equestria in some sort of economic crisis and even the royalty need to get real jobs?
Yeah, could you see this guy working?
Ew! Stay back! I just had myself groomed!
Besides, then we wouldn't have this.
Sunshine, sunshine, ladybugs awake. Clap your hooves and do a little shake.
Only for it to disappear after season 3, but I'm getting off topic.
Moving on. Shining sets part 1 of his plan into action. The first night, Cadence is full-sitting Twilight. He, very smoothly I may add, talks to Cadence.
On the bright side, it makes me feel better about the times when I try to ask out girls out on a date.
Yeah, same here. I would also like to note that Shining is going to a flugelhorn recital. I thought that at this time, the Crystal Empire was still lost.
There is never anything that says it's a crystal flugelhorn.
I guess I'm just being a little bit overly nitpicky. My bad.
Then it's time for task 2, a grand gesture to get Cadence to notice him. So, they decide to put on a rock concert before the big polo game.
So polo is to Equestria, as American football is to the human world. Makes sense. They are horses, or ponies, after all. Anyways, the following 2 pages show the concert, and they are amazingly illustrated with
references on references on references.
Most notably, the use of more cowbell and the reference to the safety dance, just to name a few.
And on that fateful day, down in Canterlot they say, young Vinyl Scratch's love for music grew 3 times that day.
Wait a second. By the might of the Princess of the Night! That's another observer pony! There is more than one of everything!
What are you talking about?
Oh, nothing important. Anyways, Cadence really loves the love song. Unfortunately, the bully, Buck, turns the crowd against Shining Armor and his friends.
So they enact Plan B, make Buck look like a fool at the polo game.
Dun 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 dun. Just ignore me and continue.
So, they attempt to use a variety of Acme products to trip up Buck, but no matter what they try, they end up helping Buck become even more of a superstar.
This results in Shining being unable to get to Cadence in time. So Buck asks her to the fall formal. And due to peer pressure, she says yes.
Thus breaking Shining Armor's heart.
It's so sad. He just really wanted to go with Cadence, and now he won't be able to.
Are you crying?
And then there's an odd cameo from Exposition Spike and Angel Bunny. Still at the Summer Wrap-Up Festival from the previous arc. Which makes no sense, because how are the main 6 in Canterlot to hear the story and in the background of the previous comic? I mean, I get it. The last arc was also written by Katie Cook and drawn by Andy Price. I have in the past praised the inclusion of Exposition Spike and Angel Bunny, but if you recall, I had an issue with their inclusion in the previous arc. At least they aren't needlessly wrapping up the comic after it's already been wrapped up like they did in part 1 of Zen and the Art of Gazebo Repair. At least there's that.
To be continued, folks.
Whoa! Hold your horses there. We still have to give our final thoughts.
Right.
This was an amazing comic, visually and narratively. I give it 8 exploding polo mallets out of 10. It took that cliche bullet and ran with it. Katie Cook managed to turn the clichéness into a satire on rom-coms. It did have a few noticeable flaws, for instance, discrepancies in the flow of time, most notably when they were playing the D&D knockoff at what looked like Shining Armor's basement in the evening, and then continue the conversation as if no time had passed the next day at school, or when it goes from the flugelhorn recital right to the polo game. Were they on the same night? Though maybe when they were playing the D&D knockoff, it was in an after-school club or something. But there's no good explanation for the flugelhorn recital going right into the polo game. All nitpicks aside, this comic did do its job of making Shining Armor's character more three-dimensional, instead of just written in for plot convenience.
Well, I'll give a more in-depth wrap-up in part 2, but for part 1, I thought for all its cliche, it was well executed and even enjoyable. And even if I didn't roll with Shining being a nerd, considering we found out that Cadence is a nerd in season 4, I can live with that. It's witty, full of memorable moments, and just as many fun cameos and little things that rival the second Equestria Girls movie. Overall, while it's not the funniest comic I've read, it's still a blast reading over and over again.
Well, that is our 2 bits on this comic.
Tell us your 2 bits in the comments below.
And while you're down there, why not suggest a future spoiler alert? And don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, be sure to head over to the Autistic Ponies channel, link in the description. See you next week when we review Neigh Anything, Part 2, Presentable in Periwinkle.
Comic, before I randomly teleported in here, were you gonna do this review with someone else?
Nothing was set in stone. I hadn't even asked if she was available. I'll just add me mentioning it to my list of totally subtle foreshadowing for future reviews.
So, do I just awkwardly wait here until the next—
Yes, damn it!